Hello, everyone. The time is now 12:05. Thank you so much for tuning in with us today. I see some people from Union City, Rockland, Sacramento, EDH, Marin County. I was just there yesterday. Thank you for joining us today. We are going to get started. My name is Leticia Palmadesi, or my friends call me Tish. I'd love for you to do the same. I'm one of the statewide R3 coordinators for the Hunter Angler Recruit, Retain, Reactivate effort, R3. And these Harvest Huddle Hours are a virtual education tool that our program utilizes in hopes to really help out adult audiences just starting or returning to hunting, fishing, foraging, and the shooting sports. So again, thank you for joining us today. We know your time is very valuable and spending this lunch hour with us means a lot. So the information that we're going to provide during these huddles is really meant to help people break down and break through information barriers that exist and really provide a confidence booster to our participants. So today we have two veteran, knowledgeable panelists that will talk about the steps to entering the world of hunting after you've passed Hunter's Ed, and even dive into a little bit navigating your hunting experience during the pandemic and after. Something we all look forward to, I'm sure. Some quick housekeeping. If you can stay on mute with your camera off, unless you are going to be on screen, which for this today in particular, we don't aren't requiring that of you. So just keep those microphones on mute and your cameras off. For those of you new to Zoom, you can change the way your screen looks by clicking the top right icons. There are two views, gallery and presenter. We recommend gallery view when many people are talking, and presenter view for individual presenters, which we have today, but you can feel free to play around with it and do it whatever you like. At the end of the session, there is going to be an opportunity for audience participation through Q&A. Today, we're going to use the Q&A feature, and this is located at the bottom of your screen, this little icon that kind of looks like two text balloons. You can type your questions there and then hit enter to submit. Our moderator team will get through as many questions as we can, so please don't hesitate to ask questions. We really love for the audience to participate. Just to let you know, all the sessions are recorded and available on the department's R3 webpage. Within a couple of days, give us some time to get it going. We also have our past R3H3 recordings there as well, and you can find those at wildlife.ca.gov/R3. We'll add that link to the chat box so you can see some of the past recordings that we've done as well. Without further ado, let's introduce our team today. Our Q&A answering your questions and fielding them to our presenters, our moderators. We have CDFW Lieutenant Sean Oligi, and also Robert Karam from the R3 team out of the Office of Communication, Education, and Outreach. Please know we do our best to answer everyone during the event, but if for some reason your question doesn't get answered, or if it's kind of outside the scope of what we're talking about in this particular huddle hour, you can just email us at statewide-r3program@wildlife.ca.gov, and we'll add that email address into the chat as well. Now for our presenters, Sarahbeth Gonsalves is a longtime host and coordinator of outdoor educational events. She is the former administrator for the California chapter of Becoming an Outdoors Woman, which is a nationwide outdoor educational program dedicated to teaching adults outdoor skills in safe and a non-competitive environment, which is so important. Her goal and expertise really is making novices feel safe, welcomed, and accepted while they're learning their new skills. Similarly, our second presenter, Jen Benedet, takes pride in helping new hunters get acclimated and build confidence by many means. She is the R3 state coordinator for California and an avid hunter, but this is a good little tidbit about Jen. She's originally a beach dweller from Oceanside, California, and started hunting, fishing, bow fishing, which I find fascinating, and shooting archery as an adult in San Diego County. 6 years ago, she and her family purchased a 20-acre homestead in Northern California where they enjoy eating only wild proteins, foraging, gardening, cooking, and preserving nature's bounty together. And if you don't know, I mean, she has some great tips, and I can't wait to hear from her today. So she and Sarahbeth are a wealth of information for new hunters or just any hunter looking to try a new skill. And we are very happy to welcome them today and eager to hear their presentation. So with that, thank you, Sarahbeth and Jen, for being here today. We will jump right in, and just remember, if you have any questions that come up, just use that Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen. With that, Sarahbeth and Jen, take it away.
Thanks. Thank you, Tish. And I see so many people in the chat box responding that they're from various places in San Diego, which is my stomping ground. So welcome. I'm so excited to have people from SoCal join us. I love the rest of the state too. I live in NorCal now, but hopefully we'll give some good information to everyone living in all reaches of the state. So Sarahbeth and I are going to mostly talk today about the very basics. This is meant for super beginners, and we're going to cover the why, who, what, how, and when of getting started hunting in a time of COVID. A lot of the things we're going to talk about apply to California, but if you are from outside of California, many of the skill sets that we're going to cover are applicable no matter where you're tuning in from. So the other thing we wanted to mention before we get started was that all of the things that we talk about today, we're going to be sending to you in a resource email after the presentation. So if there's something that we just sort of glaze over and don't give you a lot of details on, the details will be forthcoming. We just only have about 35 minutes to talk to you before we jump into Q&A. So it's a lot to cover in a short amount of time, and you can always reach back out to us with additional questions, and we'll make sure that we help you out. So let's start with the why. Identify the why. Really, why are you doing this? Why are you interested? What makes you want to hunt? What draws you to the idea of going out into the wild places and procuring your own food instead of just going to the grocery store and picking up something? You should definitely start by asking your why. At some point, whatever your biggest motivator is today may not be what your biggest motivator is in a year from now, or 5 years from now, or 20 years from now. And sometime throughout your journey, your why is going to be challenged. And what I mean by that is that your why, you're going to learn things that may make you rethink your views or opinions about certain aspects of hunting. Other people might challenge why you do what you do. And you may decide that certain things aren't for you, and that's all okay. But it's really, really good to know kind of take an inventory of where it is you're starting this journey from today, what you believe is true, what you believe is passionate, what you believe is your drive and your motivator, because that will change over time. You know, Sarahbeth and I both started as adults, and I can tell you in the 8 years or so that I've been hunting, my why has definitely changed. So, you know, I had a goal initially to live off grid, to be self-sustainable, to have a low carbon footprint, while increasing my ability to become self-sufficient and redefine what it means to be a provider as a female. You know, I've been told my whole life, oh, you can't do this or you can't do that because I'm a girl. And that's totally not true, first of all. But also that why has really taken me a little farther now that I have kids. I want my daughter to also know that she can be a provider and she can have a relationship with the woods. And I want to help her grow that. So Sarahbeth, what is your why? Why are you here?
Well, if you can see on the screen, there's a picture of a vaguely human character in the background, and that was my why of getting into hunting. I initially started because I wanted to hang out with another person, and that other person happened to be my boyfriend and now husband. But for a lot of people, one of the whys that gets them into could be hunting, could be fishing, whatever, is to spend time with another person. Could be a significant other, could be a child, could be a parent, could be a extended relative or a good friend. But when I initially started, you know, I thought hunting was cool, and I really love nature. I grew up in nature, so it was kind of a regular step for me. But anybody who knows me knows that I do not like getting up early in the morning, and I do not like being cold. So getting me in a duck blind for the first time, I must have been really highly motivated to spend time with that man there. But now, you know, my motivations have changed. Yes, I still love spending time with him, you know, most of the time. But now I've got different motivations. So it really just depends on what you want to get out of the experience. It doesn't have to be the same as your friend, which is kind of cool, frankly.
Right. Yeah. And the picture on the left, I guess I didn't talk about it. That picture was my very first real hunt. I am sitting in a tree stand, mostly sleeping because I didn't know anything and I didn't know what I was doing, in Central California, in a place that I was totally unfamiliar with a bow, which I had only been shooting for maybe like 8 months at that point. I mostly slept, I'll be honest. It was really nice and peaceful. I definitely did not shoot anything, but that is where I got my start. And I look at that picture now and think, well, it's a totally different person. I've changed everything about my why. So it's interesting. So Sarah, tell me a little bit more about, like, you have a who, right? So tell me more about, how do you identify this? Like, who's this person? I didn't have a who when I started, right?
So getting on to the who aspect of this, because we're going to essentially go through the who, what, where, why, and when of when to do all these things. So once you've identified your why and why you want to go out into nature and hunt another creature, which is a significant event, you got to figure out who you're going to go with, because frankly, hunting has been a social activity since the dawn of time. Most people were not able to take down a mammoth by themselves, right? That's not how that works. Now, you can go hunting alone, especially for new hunters. We don't necessarily recommend that. And like any activity, having a mentor can make or break your thing. But with COVID, where have all the mentors gone? There are some options nowadays. I married my mentor, right? That was easy. But I've also have a kind of a tight bubble of people that I can still call and go out with, especially, in this time of COVID, we talk about our bubble, our safe bubbles. You can still utilize those, but you're going to have to get a little bit creative finding the who that is going to mentor you, to teach you, because back in the day you could sign up for a clinic or you could go to a sports store and talk to somebody. It's a little bit different now, but fortunately there are still some things that you can do as a new hunter. And one of the things is, one of the things that you are going to have to do, and this is a no contest, is you're going to have to be a self-starter and you're going to have to do a lot of research. There's a lot of options out there, but you're going to have to do the footwork to do that. One of the coolest ways I think that's happening now is there's a lot of online learning available. Of course, you're attending a free seminar, which is one of the ways you can do online learning. There's Advanced Hunter Ed, all kinds of stuff. There's social media groups where you could join a group and learn some knowledge. Keep in mind, social media is a double-edged sword, right? You got to do your research. Maybe not all groups are going to be like your thing. There's YouTube. You can go on YouTube and learn from another person, AKA a dedicated YouTube channel. Things are going to work differently for different people. There are still in-person options. And one of the in-person options that a lot of people don't consider, especially when they're first starting out, is working with the pros, going with a professional guide. It's going to be a little bit more expensive, but it's going to be highly effective because you're going to be with a pro who's making their living doing this thing and learning the whole time you're there. A lot of times pros will have, it's a little bit hard to access gear nowadays. So maybe they might have that. They'll know where to go. They'll be able to talk to you about different things. And you'll have access to the lands that you may not have access to otherwise. Plus, you're supporting a local business, which is really freaking awesome, I think. If you go with a local pro, those dollars are staying in California or whatever state you're hunting with. So it's one of those things where there are other options for your who, for your mentor. And I think Jen was talking a little bit about her story. Your initial hunt mentor, Jen, was a little bit different than others, right? Can you tell me a little bit about the details on that and why your particular mentor could be actually really useful to people nowadays?
Sure, yeah. So when I got started, I did not know anybody who hunted. I knew people who fished because I lived in a beach town. But I didn't grow up doing it. I didn't know anybody. And I literally went all over the place, sort of begging and pleading and groveling to conservation organizations, like, teach me. And lots of people definitely took pity on me and helped me. But I didn't necessarily have this one single mentor right in the beginning. My best friend, actually, and her and I got started together at the same exact level. So we were not necessarily each other's mentor, but we were each other's learning buddy. And so in a time of COVID, this is like a perfect scenario, right? You're in your family groups at home, you're supposed to stay within your household, pick somebody that lives with you and learn together. And because two efforts to do research and to try things out are better than one. So that's not to say we didn't meet people who mentored us along the way. We definitely did. And we usually came as a package deal, which was really, it made us feel safe, right? As two people who knew nothing, who were going to go to the woods with people with weapons. As two females, it really made sense for us to try to do this together. I should say also, at no point did I ever feel unsafe with people who offered to help us along the way. That, you know, I was worried about it initially, but I actually never have experienced anything like that. So a lot of sort of, you know, the baby boomer and older generation were extremely gracious in showing us spots and walking us through the process. And it may have only been an hour or two here, but again, having a friend where you can learn together, or someone from your family to learn together at the same level, what that did is it gave us a way to spend time together to research the skills without actually needing a mentor to take us out every single time. We did a whole lot of hiking with our bows in, you know, Mount Laguna and East County, San Diego, thinking that we were trying to hunt and not actually hunting. But through all of that, we learned a lot. And in the first year of hunting, I was able to successfully take a lot of animals to fill up my freezer. And though I didn't think I was doing anything at the time successful, in retrospect, at the end of the year, I was like, whoa, I learned so much. So don't be afraid to use your friends and the people in your family to become learning buddies, rather than looking for this all-knowing mentor figure that's going to teach you everything in the book.
Sweet. That is totally, totally awesome. You know, especially now, you gotta use every outlet available to you, and sometimes that's the person next to you on the couch right now, right? Learning together is useful. Now, that's a little bit about the who, and we can talk about the who forever and a day. But the next kind of step, once you've determined your why, and once you determine who's going to either teach you or learn with you, you got to figure out the what. What do you need versus what do you want to go hunting in the state of California? Because as we all know, needs and wants are not the same thing. Fortunately, we have Jen online, who is, kind of in with the state there, and she's going to be able to talk about the things that you absolutely need that are required by the state in order to go hunting. And those are the kinds of things that are non-contestable. Then we'll talk about the wants and all the fun, fancy stuff. So take it away, Jen. Hang on, Jen.
Sorry about that. I know my internet connection says it's unstable, so I apologize if I'm glitchy, everyone. So there's three things that you absolutely have to have. It's definitely not an option. And those three things are hunter education. If you have taken that already, you're ahead of the curve for this webinar. If you've not yet taken it, a little later today, we're going to go ahead and walk you through where you can find the place to sign up for that. The second thing that you need is your license. Taking Hunter's Ed qualifies you to purchase your license. And then depending on what you're going to hunt, you might need tags and stamps. And then you need regulatory knowledge, which kind of is all encompassing of the things we're talking about in terms of what you need. Proficiency in a legal method of take is on there. And while it's not on the checklist of things you need, it is something you need, because if you can't make an ethical shot on an animal, you risk not only being an unethical hunter, but you also risk breaking the law, right? You may shoot yourself or shoot someone else on accident. You may shoot beyond your target. You may shoot in places you don't intend to. So you need to be proficient in a legal method of take for the season that you're hunting. Again, going back to regulatory knowledge. And again, we will, Sarah, can you switch the the PowerPoint to the next 2 slides. So under this hunting license, so it's our web address, wildlife.ca.gov/regulations, or previously on the previous slide, / I'm not sure what it is. We'll drop it in the chat box. But anyway, this hunting regulations page, it tells you everything you need to know about regulations. And when you first look at the book, it's probably going to seem really overwhelming and daunting. The good thing is the department just switched over to online only reg books, and you can download them and use the search function to search exactly what you're looking for. And you may not know what that is yet if you're just getting started, and that's okay. But I know when I started, I actually did read the whole entire reg book just because I wanted to make sure I knew what I was doing. But if you're looking for something specific, you can use the search function, and there's directions, that yellow box right there. This is just a screenshot, but if you navigate to the page, that yellow box actually has a link that will teach you how to navigate online regulation booklets to find exactly what you're looking for, and to save and bookmark those pages to your smart device, or you can print them out as well. So you can always refer back to them, or you can screenshot them so you have them in the field. But it's really, when I started out, I took reg books now on smart device or screenshots or printed versions, and I read them out in the field while I was sitting pretending to hunt. And I learned a lot that way, actually. So anyways, so those are the things you have to have. As far as weapon, firearm, or archery proficiency, we're going to go over a little later in the resource section of this presentation on how you might obtain some of that proficiency if you've never shot a firearm or archery equipment. Now, Sarah she works a lot with clinics and teaching outdoor education, hunting education for bow, and there's a few things that you don't necessarily need to have, but you're going to probably want to have them, and she's going to talk a little bit about what that is.
Hello, everybody. It's time for a gear chat. Now, we're going to go over every aspect of this lovely ensemble and all the things that you have to have in order to go hunting, right? Because that's what everybody thinks when they think we talk about gear. Main point is you do not need all of this at all when you're first starting. One of the big things about gear, and everybody always asks me, they're like, dude, what do I need to pack? I've never done this before. Do I need to go shopping? No, you don't. The biggest thing the biggest guide that you can have to figuring out what gear you're going to need is what prey you are going after. Because that is going to determine, first and foremost, what your gear needs to look like. A deer is not the same as a duck. If you go deer hunting, you might wear blaze orange. If you go duck hunting, you definitely don't want to wear blaze orange. And when I say blaze orange, it's like this super bright fluorescent, color of an orange kind of thing. So depending on what prey you're going after, they will have different requirements from both habitat and you. Because the whole point of gear is to not only keep you warm and dry and safe and all that good stuff, but to conceal you from your prey. Humans have been using concealing tools since the dawn of time. We've just gotten a little bit more sophisticated now. Like any hobby, you can buy as little or as much as you want. You can get totally techie and all the gear and all the fancy schmancy kind of stuff. But starting with the question, what am I hunting and what can they see, will guide you towards what you actually need. And a lot of times, especially for beginner hunters, we recommend that they just go to their closets and see if they have something that'll work. Because say I'm going duck hunting. I want to conceal myself. Ducks can see color. So you want to be right in camo and all this kind of stuff, right? You don't necessarily need to do that. You could go to your closet and get something like a brown long sleeve shirt and a brown beanie, and that'll be perfectly good for your first time. It's one of these things where depending on, you really don't need to spend gobs and gobs of money to have a good experience initially. Gear is one of these things that tends to be a spiral for a lot of people. And yeah, you can You can spend as much or as little as you want. The whole point when you get to your first hunt is to be comfortable and safe. Warmth is always good because you are going into nature to do these things. So staying safe is a good one. But then from there, you know, the rest is learning. And a lot of times you can get hand-me-down items, especially if you are going with a mentor. A lot of my favorite pieces are hand-me-down items. You can find a ton of stuff in thrift stores, especially from earlier decades. If we want to talk about 80s camo for a little bit, you can find that stuff all over the place usually. You know, that stuff worked then, and depending on how you use it, can work now. So really, it just depends on, you know, what am I willing to spend? What am I going after? What kind of habitat do they live in? How do I, you know, how do I feel comfortable? Because tell you what, when you're all geared up and you're feeling comfortable in your gear, you feel cool. I'm just going to sell that right now. Now, sometimes, you know, especially with duck hunting, you're walking in waders and you feel like a toddler who can't walk. But that just comes with the territory, and we'll get over that as we as you practice. But bottom line, figure out what you're going for. Research, again, that word research, into where they live, what they can see. You know, if I go after a deer, maybe I need to wear scent blocker because, you know, they got really good sense of smell or something like that. You just got to look into the prey that you're going after. And then from there, you know, start with the basics, work your way up. Doesn't have to cost a lot of money. And when, you know, when you feel more comfortable, maybe you'll invest more money. It's just one of those things. Just take it baby steps on this. Now, once you're all geared up, one of your next biggest responsibilities is to learn about your prey. There are skills that you need to learn and knowledge you need to gain in order to effectively, safely, and ethically hunt your prey. Now, a lot of those knowledge and skills used to be taught by mentors. You could go to clinics. Now you got to get a little bit more creative. But fortunately, we have this this R3 page that Jen is going to talk about that has a ton of resources. So while I go get out of my kit and leave my blind for a second, Jen's going to talk about that. And she's going to walk you through the R3 page, which really is a font of knowledge on some of the stuff you can work on at home and the comfort of your couch in the time of COVID, which is kind of cool.
Right. So thanks, Sarahbeth, and you have me cracking up. So this is what the R3 page looks like. Again, we will be sending this to you in a resource email at the end of today. I'm going to go through a few things on here that we talked earlier about. And I guess I should tell you, this page is not a knowledge creator. Its purpose is a knowledge aggregator. So basically, we have taken all of the different types of resources that exist under the hunting, fishing, foraging, and shooting sports topics across the department's webpage and some external web pages, and put them in one place for people who are starting out or who are returning to activities, or maybe trying out new activities. Maybe they fish and now they're just getting into hunting, or vice versa, in one place, so you don't have to go on a wild goose chase around the internet. That being said, we're always adding to this page. We're making changes to this page. And if you see something somewhere else that you think should be on this page, you can always email us or email me. My email is also on this page to let us know, hey, I'm really struggling with X, Y, and Z, and I noticed there's no resources on here for that. Can you guys make something? And we will put it on our list of things to consider as we continuously make resources and add things to this page. So the first thing before we go under hunting is this shooting sports tab. I want to just make mention that this does exist. And though COVID is happening and it has limited lots of events and activities for people to learn, lots of shooting sports ranges are actually still open. That includes archery and firearms, and there are a few range locators listed on this page that you can use. There are also private ranges around the state that you can do a quick internet search and call to see if they're open. lots of the outdoor ranges may not have anybody working there. It depends on whether it's a private club, public land, etc. So make sure, again, you look really closely at where you're going and what you need to go. Some ranges do allow people to utilize and borrow equipment while they're there to shoot, including certain archery clubs and especially indoor firearms ranges. So anyway, this exists. Know that this exists. And you can also, if you're brand new shooter and you have not taken hunter's education yet, there's some other information on shooter safety here. Even if you have taken hunter's ed, actually, this is still a great place to go for learning additional safety measures to take while shooting. There's a tab for lessons. There's various clubs for archery and firearms clubs and recreational shooting programs that exist in California. A lot of them are for youth and are school related around the archery topic, but there are some firearms event calendar aggregators on here as well. Okay, so let's go over to hunting real quick. These are the main topics that appear under the hunting tab right now. They all expand into larger resources. I mentioned hunter's education earlier. The second and third and fourth bullets on this area of the page will direct you to hunter's education. So regular traditional hunter's education is required in the state of California to hunt here. That being said, hunter's ed also offers a couple of optional things that you can get involved in to learn more. There's bow hunter education for those who are interested in archery, which is a really great course to take about not just safety, but actually the bow hunter ed class covers lots of tips and tricks for archery hunting as well, which I find really useful, including tree stand safety, which a lot of Californians don't hunt from a tree stand, but you could, depending on where you live. And if you go out of state, that's an important skill to have too. So even if you're not going to be an archer, and if you plan on hunting in a tree stand, bow hunter ed may actually teach you something as well. There's also advanced topics in hunter education. The way you registered for this class is the same way you register for those classes. So this topics in advanced hunter education tab change often, and they get expanded on, and typically most of the topics that are offered go with the seasons that are coming up. And so they're super relevant, species specific often, or system specific, like how do I navigate the draw system? And they record theirs, and we'll include the link on where to find their past sessions in the resource email so you can go back and watch them. The other thing on this hunting program section is this apprentice hunt, share hunt, PLM hunt, and up and wild bird hunt regional programs. All of those are additional hunt opportunities that you can put in for either free or a really low price through the licensing system. So I encourage you all to check out each one of these links. It's going to redirect you to another place in the webpage for the department. But like the share and the PLM hunts, they give you access to private land hunting for next to nothing if you get drawn. And I'll be honest, not a ton of people put in for either of those. So your chances of getting drawn are pretty good if you put in for them. So as they gain popularity and as we add more properties to access, that might change. But currently, I really do encourage, these two programs are really great to put in for if you want private land access, if you don't have anywhere to hunt, and they span a good part of the state. So the other things, Sarahbeth mentioned, hire a professional. There's some resources here for hunting clubs and guides. We do provide a licensed hunting guide locator for the state of California, just to make sure that whoever you're hiring is actually licensed with CDFW. Just because someone says they can take you out and that they'll guide you does not mean that they are a licensed guide. So I would encourage everyone, if you don't know this person, to make sure that what they're selling is actually true. And you can do that by checking this little link right here. Then another place to get really great information is all of our conservation organizations across the nation and state. A lot of them have California chapters, some of them are national organizations, but each one of their websites will also provide you with additional opportunities to go to events once events are happening again. maybe virtual events. CWA has virtual events going right now. Pheasants Forever is having events here and there. And WTF has been doing events. So anyway, it would be good for you to check these out if you want to look for other ways to have social support. And then this little calendar down here, it's pretty bare right now because of COVID, but in post-COVID, a lot of these organizations put their events on this calendar along with all the CDFW hunting, fishing, and foraging events that happen. So you can use this calendar and you can change the view to however you want to see it. And you can search it by keyword if you're just looking for shooting events, if you're just looking for hunting events, novice events, free events, community events, etc., youth events. The events all have tags, so you can look at things you want to look at. So with that, let me stop sharing. With that, we've arrived, I think, at the last category, which is when? When am I going to do this? Now that I know all these other things and I know where to go do my own research and I can maybe find a mentor, if not, I can find a hunting buddy. When am I going to do this? Sarahbeth, when are they going to do this?
Funny enough, you've already started. Congratulations. You have taken the first step on your hunting journey just by seeking out knowledge. Now, can you go hunting tomorrow with the knowledge you've gained here today? No, but you've taken the first step, and that's often the hardest. And from here, there are tons of resources that you can follow up with, both on the R3 page, as well as a lot of other online resources that can help guide you towards the kind of prey that you want to go after. And then from there, maybe you start working on your hunter ed. Maybe you start, maybe you attend a clinic that's pig specific or duck specific or anything like that. It's a huge journey. I'm not going to lie. And as any good teacher will tell you, a good student never stops learning. I started in 2000. We were trying to figure this out. I got my hunter ed in 2008 or 9-ish, up in Knight's Landing. And I don't even remember who my hunter ed instructor was, but ages ago. And Jen got hers around the same time. So collectively, our hunting knowledge is about 21 years old. Yay, we can drink. No, it's still, I am still considered I still consider myself a novice in a lot of stuff. Yeah, I know a lot more about duck hunting than I do deer hunting. But now I want to, maybe go get antelope, or maybe go get a deer for the first time, or, try bow fishing. There's so many different things that you can get into as long as you take the first step, do so safely, do your research. But long story short, you guys have already started. Congratulations. You've taken your first step, and hopefully you can use what you learned today to keep on going. We will be here for a little bit. So what we would really like to know is what makes you nervous about taking the next step? What apprehensions do you have on taking the next step? Thank you guys for being with us today. Jen, you got anything else?
No, I don't think so. What you said is absolutely right. I am primarily an archer. So between Sarahbeth and I feel like we could probably answer a lot of your beginning questions that you might have. We both started as adults. We both started in California, and we both do very different things in hunting. So I'm primarily a big game hunter. I'm primarily an archer. Sarahbeth is primarily a waterfowler and a shotgunner, and together we probably do pretty much all of the different types of hunting in California, and our experiences and entry points were very different. So I think what that really says is it doesn't really matter how you get into it. What matters is whether or not you have the perseverance to figure it out. There is no magic spell or potion that someone can take and be like, bam, now I'm a hunter. It is a process, and you can't expect to just show up one day and be like really great at it, right? It's like baseball or dance or anything. You don't just start up on day one being perfect and knowing what to do, all the moves, how to go, what the skills are. It is a learning process, and you definitely don't want me to take you duck hunting because it'll sound like a cat is dying in the blind when I try to call. So you know, it is a learning process, and nobody is excellent at everything around all various things of hunting. They're just not. So if they're claiming that they are, you might want to go out with somebody else. So yeah, I think we can open it up to Q&A. If Tish is ready and you're ready, I'm ready. This is my favorite part.
Awesome, me too. And you guys have been getting so many questions. It's been so exciting to watch them come in. And thank you to our moderators, Sean and Robert, for also answering them live. Sarahbeth, your wardrobe change had me cracking up. Your tips on getting gear was great too. I'm a new hunter myself, and I was writing very quickly to try to get everything. So we're going to spend about 15 minutes on questions that we got. And if you still have some more, please keep those coming in. First question, we know COVID has set back many retreats and in-person events. You guys touched on this a little bit, and it's hard to say, when these are going to start back up, but is there any light at the end of the tunnel? Have either of you heard of any in-person events that are going to be happening soonish that you could let us know about?
So the department actually hasn't stopped any of our apprentice hunts. So when I showed that R3 page and I showed you kind of where all the hunt links are, those things are all still happening. So they have varying degrees of sort of mentor experience built in depending on the hunt. So it might be a good idea to kind of call ahead and really find out what the specifics are for each hunt that you put in for. But all of those in-person experiences are still happening. The department has not stopped any of that. So definitely check that out. I don't know about, external sort of partner groups that we work with. Maybe Sarahbeth knows. CWA still does a lot of virtual things. I don't know about in person though.
Yeah, things are starting to come back. This is another place that we insert the R word, right? Do your research. A lot of organizations, conservation organizations, private ranges are starting to do events again. They are a little bit different in that, you have to stay socially distanced and you have to wear a mask and things like that. But a lot of these outdoor activities are naturally done outside. And, the running joke, especially among my fly fishing friends, is, yeah, your fly rod is at least 6 feet long. And if you get any closer than that, you're going to get whacked. So, a lot of these sports are naturally social distance. So what I would do, the best thing to do is, if you are interested in a specific prey, then follow a conservation organization that is associated with that, and look into social media groups that is associated with that, and just make some phone calls. A lot of ranges out there are having shooting clinics and open house days and things like that. One of the things actually we see coming back a little bit quicker than adult events is kids events. There are a lot of summer camps that are kind of ramping up for this summer. So, that might be a situation where you are able to attend maybe as an adult volunteer. Again, you're going to have to call and you're going to have to ask questions because everything is on a case-by-case basis, but you can still find stuff. Do a quick search online, do a quick search on social media, and you will be able to find stuff.
So Sarahbeth,
go ahead.
Real quick, what you were saying about the volunteering, I do want, just because you're a beginner and you don't know anything about hunting yet, volunteering, you don't have to be an expert to volunteer, and volunteering may actually get you to the people and the who, right? So I would encourage you to look into those opportunities, because while you may not know anything now, you volunteer 3 or 4 times and you make those connections and you start talking to people, that gives you access to information and knowledge. And plus you're doing a really cool thing by giving back. So
totally.
Yeah, it's like a double whammy there.
Right.
Speaking of the who, when we talk about who, is there an age minimum for getting your license? Like, how old do kids have to be to get their license?
So the state of California doesn't actually have an age minimum for taking hunter's education. They do need to be able to take the test independently. So there's some reading well, not so much writing, but there's some reading and comprehension skills that are needed. But in the state of California, to hunt big game, the minimum age is 12. Under that age, you can still hunt birds and small game, but those are really the only age things to consider. Yeah. And then of course you have to decide for your kid if they're mature enough to handle a firearm or archery equipment, right? There's that too. So not all 10-year-olds are the same, right? Not all 8-year-olds are the same. Not all 15-year-olds are the same. So, use your best judgment.
We have a visiting researcher and they asked, do you have to be a US citizen to get a hunting license?
I don't think so. I don't actually know the answer to that.
But we'll get back to you.
Yeah, I don't.
They
I don't
asked
think
anonymously.
so, but yeah, I don't think so. No. Sean, do you know the answer to that? One of our background moderators.
Our experts.
I'm sorry, Jen, I was typing. What was the
Sure.
question?
Do you have to be a US citizen to have a California hunting license?
No.
No. Okay. Yeah, I didn't think so. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean.
You do still have to take hunter ed.
And yeah, and speaking of hunter's ed, it's online right now. Do we think it's going to stay online, or do we think that in-person hunter's ed will start back up? Or
I don't know the answer to that either. What I do think is that there will be multiple delivery options moving into the future available.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then here's an easy one. What's your favorite prey or species to hunt and why?
Do you want to go, Sarahbeth?
Sure. I feel like, I feel like that's an open-ended question. I do love duck hunting, but as I've been doing it longer and longer, there are other things I'm finding I'm more interested in. Like I really love to fish, and I really love to eat all kinds of fish. So I've been fishing more often than I've been hunting lately, which is a little bit of a change. But no, I love duck hunting, and even though it is cold and it is early morning and it's just gnarly, there's a special connection about being in nature and being hidden in nature. And a lot of archers will get this. Any hunter who's been doing it for any length of time will get this. And you might get a similar feeling like backpacking into the way beyond, and you go out long enough on the PCT that you start smelling of nature and you start kind of getting itself ingrained in nature. And all of a sudden nature shows itself to you. And you get that in a duck blind, as long as you're, hidden as well as you can. I mean, I love being able to see the marsh wake up. I love being able to see all the different kinds of wildlife. Even if I don't get a duck, it's usually a good bird day. I might see a ruddy duck and she might just be, hanging out in the pond, and there might be a juvenile swan. And, if you know me, I'm very famous for calling to the swans, and they respond to me because, I'm the swan whisperer. No,
except that you can't hunt them.
I like that.
No, you can't, but they're entertaining, right? I mean, I love being in nature, and there's something, all creatures on this earth need water. So things associated with water, I'm a water baby. I am a water child. And yeah, anything associated with water, pretty much.
Mm-hmm. So for me, it's hard to say what my favorite is. I hunt pretty much all seasons. I can tell you what my least favorite is, and that is waterfowl hunting. So it's cold, it's wet, the weather sucks. Waterfowl hunting and I have a love-hate relationship because I love to cook duck and geese a lot, and especially the less desired ducks. I enjoy proving people the fact that you can eat anything if it's prepared right. And there are certain ducks that are favored, and certain, people are like, oh, it's sky carp. So speaking of carp, I also love to bow fish, and I love to bow fish for carp, and carp is also edible. And so, I'm a big fan of traversing the culinary world of underappreciated meats. And so that's really my thing. But in terms of the actual hunt, I love to pig hunt. Honestly, it's what got me started. It was what my bucket list item was. And pig hunting, pigs are invasive to California. So for conservation reasons, pig hunting is definitely a great starter. There's a little bit of an adrenaline rush with pigs because it's not always super safe. And I'm an archer again, so the proximity is a lot closer than with firearms often. But yeah, no, I'm a pig hunter through and through. That is where my heart lies.
Jen, we just got one in. What's a good prey interest for beginner archers? Like, could you just start off shooting a pig?
That's what I did. I mean, actually, the first thing I shot was a bird with my bow, which seems counterintuitive because birds fly, right? And so it's a little harder to hit the target. So, you know, I think that question isn't standard for everyone. It kind of depends on where you live and what's available to your area. But I would say small game like rabbits and hares are a good place to start because they're almost everywhere. You probably have lots of opportunities in the same day. Whereas if you're big game hunting, you know, and you're going to go deer hunt, you may go 3 days without even seeing anything. So if you're looking for motivation and your motivation is based on actually successfully taking something, small game is probably going to have the largest payout if that's how you're going to measure success. If you're going to measure success differently, right? Spending time in the woods, learning, you know, how to identify game trails and scat and tracks and beds and all these other things, going to the woods. I mean, if that is your determination of success, then big game hunting, you know, the target's a lot larger, but it's less common. And, you know, again, being that ethical hunter that I mentioned earlier, you have to know where vital organs are, right? Before you shoot at anything, you should definitely be looking up whatever it is you're going after and looking up an image or images of where vital organs are located before you ever take a shot on something. One of the worst feelings that hunters have is when they make a bad shot. It does happen, right? I'm not going to sugarcoat and say everybody always makes a perfect shot. That's not true. Even the most experienced hunters sometimes make bad shots. And you feel terrible about it, right? Because we don't hunt because we want to maim animals. We hunt because of whatever your why is, right? And so it is important to know where vital organs. I don't want to scare anybody, you know, I'm not trying to make it like some scary, like, uh-oh, dun, dun, dun. But educate yourself before you shoot at anything, whatever it is you're going to go after, as you know, not just as a beginner. As hunters work on this skill set forever.
Right. Now, does bow hunter education is bow hunter education a requirement to hunt with a bow, or is regular hunters education enough?
Yeah, no, bow hunter ed is not required in California. It is required in some other states. So if you're going to go out of state, you need to make sure you check that requirement. But no, California does not legally require that you take bow hunter ed. Hunter education is required for any type of hunting, period, across the board. You have to take it. It's not a want, it's a need. All the other hunter education programs that California offers, they're optional. I would encourage you to take them. I mean, they're free or low cost, depending on what you pick. But especially as a beginner, like the more knowledge you have, the better, right? Especially if you can't find a mentor in person to teach you. I will tell you that when I first started out, I was not an archer before I started hunting. I didn't know what I was doing. And I actually signed up to become a certified archery instructor, not because I wanted to teach archery, but because I didn't know anybody to teach me archery. And that is kind of how I started. And through that, I eventually did make connections, and I did end up having an archer mentor who did take me on my very first hunt from that picture that you saw in that first slide. And he was a sales associate from an archery store. You know, so you never know who you're going to meet and along the way and who could help you out. But you like Sarahbeth said, you have to take that first step and do the research and start immersing yourself where the resources exist.
Right.
See, I'm not a bow hunter, and I really enjoyed taking bow hunter ed. So, but I had a really great teacher. So no, I'm not a bow hunter yet. Let's just say that. But I had a lot of fun. I mean, you got to learn how to track a trail, you know, track a blood trail and do all this kind of stuff. And it was really cool. So, you know, I don't bow hunt yet because you can only have so many hobbies, and I got a lot of hobbies, but yeah, it's plus rabbits are delicious. Just saying. They're also small and easier to clean than a large deer. I'm just saying.
Right.
Or
they are. Rabbits a good place to start. And then for shotgunners, I really think dove hunting is a great place to start if you can find access. Doves are all over the state, But also the thing about dove hunting is that you don't need a lot of specialized gear. You can go in whatever you're wearing pretty much.
Shorts.
I know I typically dove hunt in a tank top and shorts, and sometimes even flip-flops depending on where I'm going. So, you don't need anything special other than a shotgun, and shotgun ammunition right now is relatively easy to find, comparatively speaking. People do, shot shells, or you can still find them. Other ammunition is a little more difficult to find currently. Hopefully that will turn around sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
But if you can't find ammunition, I'll put my archery pitch. There's always archery.
I'll add something
She
to that.
uses that one a lot. Yeah.
I'll add something to that. As far as beginner, if we're just talking about beginner animals, pheasant clubs up and down California, pheasant is one of the places that you can start and get some success with a shotgun. So, you can, even if you don't have a whole lot of experience, a lot of times they have guides you can go out with. Essentially, they have dogs you can rent. You do have to know a little bit about handling a dog, but yeah, it's that's one of the ways to get into hunting with an animal. There's this discussion on how am I going to kill another animal, right? And things that get progressively closer to us as humans get progressively harder to kill, essentially, right? Most people don't think fish are cute, but I think fish are cute. But then it goes birds, then it goes mammals, then it goes large mammals, things like that. So starting with your birds and starting with your pheasants, which can give you better success, is not a terrible way to start. Now, if you've never dispatched anything in your life, maybe start with fish. This is one of those things, but you're going to have to come to terms with that. And everybody does that in their own way. The first animal I ever took out in the wild, I bawled my eyes out for like 10 minutes. So that happens, and that's okay.
Yeah. Well, you guys have been fantastic. I feel like we can keep chatting, but we have reached our time limit a little bit over. If you didn't get your question answered, please remember you can always find resources on the R3 page that we walked you through earlier today. We'll put the link in the chat again. And then also you can email us at statewide-r3program@wildlife.ca, or excuse me, statewide-r3program@wildlife.ca.gov, and we'll put that in the chat box as well. With that, we hope you join us in 2 weeks. We will have our first shooting sport topic on April 2nd at noon again, and we'll cover shotgun fit. You can find the registration links by visiting the R3 calendar and by watching our CDF social media, or by signing up to receive monthly hunter angler updates through our online licensing portal. Additionally, when you visit the event registration page, please take a look at our advanced hunter ed offerings. We highly encourage you to check those out and sign up for topics that interest you. And again, with that, we'll say a final thank you to our presenters, Jen and Sarahbeth. You guys were awesome, and our behind the scenes support. And a huge thank you to all of our attendees. This session's recording will be up on the R3 page in the coming days. I hope you guys have a great weekend, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. And look for that resource email. There'll be lots of stuff. And we'll try to include some of the leftover questions that people had in that email, since there's so many more questions that we didn't get to.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Perfect.
All right, all, bye.
Thanks, everybody.